I'm Max Darrow, and this is The Minute. The Chevron refinery in Richmond flared again for the third time in a month. Saturday's flare sent thick smoke into the air, triggering a health advisory in parts of Contra Costa and Solano counties. Chevron called this a minor incident, but the Air District is investigating. A transgender high school athlete from Jurupa Valley made history, winning gold in the girls' high jump and triple jump at the state track and field championships. But her victory did spark multiple protests and even some criticism from President Trump. Pride Month kicks off today nationwide, and locally in Daly City, more than 3,000 cyclists are beginning their ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles for the final AIDS Life Cycle ride. Organizers say it'll be the last year for the ride due to a decline in fundraising. I'm Max Darrow with The Minute.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Coming up, meet a former San Quentin inmate who says something as simple as making sure every prisoner has their own cell can drastically improve their chances of rehabilitation.
I literally turned my cell into a law library and studied the law for 4 years.
Plus, how some people in the East Bay are taking matters into their own hands to stop sideshows. And a student embarking on a cycling journey from coast to coast, from San Francisco to New Jersey. His mission to raise awareness for lung cancer. Thanks for joining us. I'm Max Darrow. Let's go over to meteorologist Zoe Mintz. It was once home to some of the state's most hardened criminals, but San Quentin is now undergoing a major transformation with a keen focus on rehabilitation. A small part of that effort involves a state proposal that would require some inmates to be moved from shared cells into their own cell. And while that may not seem like a big deal for those outside of the prison walls, one former inmate tells our Lauren Toms, for those inside, this could make a world of a difference.
When you think about being confined in that type of space 24 hours a day with another human that you don't know, it becomes tense quickly and can become tense.
Ken Oliver spent nearly 24 years behind bars. 8 of those years were spent in solitary confinement. It was there, alone, in the space the size of a closet, where he found clarity and focus to turn his life around.
So I literally turned my cell into a law library and studied the law for 4 years. I had thousands of cases in my cell, books and everything else, and had I had a cellmate, I would not have been able to do that.
Since his release, he's become an advocate for justice reforms. He supports a new assembly bill that would require at least 10% of prison populations to be housed in single-occupancy cells. It would start as a pilot program with 4 state facilities, and Ken says if it passes, it can give more inmates a shot at true rehabilitation.
Because it causes less stress. When I'm forced to navigate that with another person, I'm actually restricting a piece of myself or repressing a piece of myself because there's another human being in close proximity that, if I don't do that, may cause violence.
It is probably the most unimaginable partnership between a district attorney and inmates in a prison.
The bill has an unlikely ally in San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins. She says her partnership with inmates at San Quentin, whom she calls residents, has given her a deeper understanding of their stories and needs for successfully reentering society.
When you're handling a case, you're only talking about the facts of probably the worst day of their lives, but you don't get to know who they are and what their story is. And so what I learned is they have an overwhelming desire to have us as prosecutors understand the road that got them here, and they also want to be able to give back so that other people, other kids, youth, young people don't end up in the same place.
Vincent O'Bannon worked closely with Jenkins on the legislation while serving more than 15 years at San Quentin.
I never imagined that I would be on the same side of the table as a district attorney.
He remembers the violence that can erupt in tight cells, often with strangers, adding barriers to the journey towards rehabilitation.
While I was at San Quentin, there had to be at least 5 murders by cellmates. Being alone takes a great weight off of you.
And for Ken, as he walks the exterior of San Quentin, he's hopeful that the system that once worked to confine him is working to improve public safety, both inside and outside its walls.
Lauren tells us the Assembly is expected to vote on the bill on Tuesday. It would then have to clear the state Senate before hitting Governor Newsom's desk. Now to the ongoing push to improve public safety in San Francisco. SFPD is among the around 1,700 police departments nationwide that uses drones for search and rescue, traffic control, and crime scene work. In San Francisco, police say drones are key to cracking down on auto theft. Jolene Kent takes a closer look at the Bay Area's new eyes in the sky.
With a drone flying over 200 feet in the air, San Francisco Police Chief Bill Scott and his team are tracking this stolen white truck, reported missing a few hours earlier.
How long would it have taken to get officers tracking that car?
So without the alert system, we may not have even known this car was in our city.
It's an alert system the city is piloting that begins with a web of automatic license plate readers and cameras positioned at intersections around San Francisco.
I'm gonna follow this all the way down to the park.
As the stolen truck drove by one of them, an alert popped up on screens here in the real-time investigation center.
You've gone from this giant helipad to this.
Yeah, I mean,
drone
evolution.
And this is how they're evolving. When the police department received that alert, a drone was immediately dispatched from their roof to follow the truck, transmitting high-definition video without the suspect's knowledge, so officers apprehending him could make a plan.
When we are able to effectively arrest the people that are causing this type of crime, this type of harm, it goes a long way.
In this case, the thief surrendered, was arrested, and the truck was returned to its owner. And despite a shortage of 500 officers, Chief Scott says thanks to this new technology, they're seeing results. Auto theft declined 41% in San Francisco in the last year. And for car break-ins, the drop was even more.
We went from almost 20,000 to under 10,000.
However, crime is down across the board in major cities. So do you really think it's the drones doing the work, or is this just a national trend where crime is coming down?
Well, it's down more here. Our crime rates have fallen more significantly, and I think some of that is attributable to both the people doing the work, but the tools that are in their hands have made us better.
Still ahead on CBS News Bay Area on this Sunday, a city in the East Bay breaking up a vigilante construction project the neighbors say was actually helping keep their streets safe from sideshows. Now they tell us the fight is not over.
And if they're gonna rip them out, we're gonna put them back in again. We can do this all day.
Plus, San Francisco's mayor promised to crack down on crime. As a result, the public defender's office now says its workload has gone way up.
If they get arrested, they're coming back out again. And it's really important that we connect people so they can put themselves in a position where they can move to a better place in life.
We explore solutions for the overworked and undermanned office. And avocados, just another victim of Trump's tariffs. So some people are now taking matters into their own hands and gardens.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Fed up with sideshows, people in one East Oakland neighborhood decided to take matters into their own hands by building their own speed bumps. We're talking about the area around East 21st Street and 19th Avenue in the Highland Terrace neighborhood. That area had become a hotbed for sideshows. Somebody was even shot and killed as a result of one of those sideshows just a few blocks away. The neighbors say the speed bumps were working. Recently, the city took them out, saying they were actually making the roads themselves more dangerous. Amanda Harry spoke with people on both sides of this street safety debate.
After years of sideshows, people living near East 21st Street and 19th Avenue were fed up. They filed reports, created petitions, and contacted city leaders, but nothing was done.
When the city fails to act, we act.
Michael Andemeskel says the sideshows impacted everyone. People feared for their safety and needed to stay inside. Even then, they couldn't escape the smoke and the noise.
It's a terrible experience. And, the next day you're just not the same. Kids can't go to school. you can't, do work.
And Demescal spearheaded the effort to take matters into their own hands. They gathered money from neighbors and as a group installed dozens of speed bumps at several intersections. Another neighbor who did not want to appear on camera says their efforts worked.
Like our little neighborhood watch that everybody kind of like chipped in and they implemented it. And it was safe for a while until just last week it was removed, and the same day they came at night.
You can see in this video city workers pulling up the speed bumps last week, several months after they were installed.
You can still see where the speed bumps once were. They say if the city won't put them back, they're going to do it themselves, and they're not worried about the repercussions.
No one's afraid of what the city's going to do. And if they're going to rip them out, we're going to put them back in again. We can do this all day.
Director of Transportation Josh Rowan says about a month ago he was riding a bus when he was jostled by the speed bumps. That's when he realized he needed to take a look at them.
And after reviewing the operations and discussing with my engineering team, we felt it was too much risk for the traveling public to leave them there. We were actually observing cars swerving out of the travel lane to avoid these bumps that had been installed.
Rowan says they're working on a safety project that'll bring more funding to that area of town, but it won't start until 2027. In the meantime, they're working on a short-term solution of paint and posts.
We want to work with them. We want to get solutions that are solving these problems, but they keep getting out in front of us. And that's not helping either us or them.
But Ann Demescal argues it's just a matter of time until someone gets hurt or killed. And the city needs to act quickly.
A couple of demands from the city. We demand that they come up with a plan to deal with the sideshow issue by June 6th, right? And that they implement whatever the solution is within reasonable time frame, 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And if not, we're just going to put them back.
So before the speed bumps, neighbors also installed a makeshift divider using tires filled with dirt and concrete to try to prevent these sideshows from happening. The city removed those as well. That was because a car hit one of the tires and flipped onto its side. Let's go across the bay now to San Francisco, where Mayor Lurie has promised to crack down on the flow of fentanyl. He's touted the success of targeted operations to clear the streets of drug activity in places like 6th and 16th and Mission. That's led to an increase in drug arrests and cases prosecuted, a trend that did start, however, before Lurie took office. Now, the San Francisco public defender tells us his office is overloaded. As Kenny Choi reports, it has even had to stop taking cases once a week.
San Francisco public defender Mano Raju says he's concerned with a rising number of cases and what that means for his clients and an overworked staff.
We're constitutionally obligated to provide an ethical and competent defense to anyone who is charged with a crime in San Francisco.
Data presented during a recent Board of Supervisors meeting shows San Francisco has the highest caseloads compared to surrounding counties. There's been a 31% increase in filings over the last 3 years.
It gets to a certain point where the cases are too many to provide the level of representation that the Constitution demands. It's imperative on us to reduce our caseload.
That's why Raju's office has stopped taking any new cases 1 day a week. The public defender and district attorney's office both point to an increase in arrests by the San Francisco police as the reason behind the overwhelming number of cases. Jenkins says the uptick in arrests is the result of more widespread enforcement of quality of life crimes, including public drug use, encampments, and retail theft.
When you give a fentanyl dealer a misdemeanor, that's effectively decriminalizing it. When you refuse to prosecute any quality of life crime, we've seen that before, and we know where that got us.
Raju believes there's a better way to improve public safety through diversion programs rather than ramping up arrests and prosecutions, especially for quality of life crimes.
If they get arrested, they're coming back out again. And it's really important that we connect people so they can put themselves in a position where they can move to a better place in life by connecting them with the appropriate services.
Both offices say cases are also taking longer to resolve. Part of the reason is that more cameras across the city and police technology have resulted in more evidence for attorneys to review.
Still ahead, as prices of avocados go up, we'll introduce you to the people who are dodging the tariffs and just planting them themselves.
It's like growing dollar bills on a tree right in your backyard.
Some avocado lovers are making some investments of their own to get around any price hikes from President Trump's tariffs. Itai Hodge shows us how some people are now taking steps to grow their own avocados.
In Northern California, where the soil is rich and the weather is just right, there's one man who thinks it's time to stop buying avocados and start growing them.
I just love these trees. I mean, they're super beautiful, and it's probably one of the most perfect foods there is.
Meet Gary Gregg, avocado lover, tree seller, and someone who believes the best way to fight rising prices might be rooted in your own garden. For 35 years, he's been growing avocado trees at his nursery, Golden Gate Palms in Richmond. And for 35 years, he's been trying to convince people to branch out and plant one.
It's like growing dollar bills on a tree right in your backyard.
Most people didn't bite until the prices of avocados skyrocketed and business started to blossom.
Ever since the tariffs came out, people have been flying into the store wanting their avocados really badly.
According to the USDA, about 90% of all avocados sold in the U.S. are imported. With new tariffs looming and supply chains under stress, avocado prices are looking ripe for a hike. In just the last few weeks, sales of his avocado trees have jumped 40%. They sell for anywhere between $500 and $800. But once mature, each tree can produce up to 300 avocados a year. Which brings us to Kim and Rich Pearson of Martinez. Kim runs a daycare from home. Rich is a retired cop. When they heard about the tariffs, they decided it was time to grow their options.
We know that once this thing gets going, it's going to explode and we'll get tons of avocados and we'll be able to take care of our neighbors, friends, family, and it's going to last for a long time.
Saving money by planting avocado trees and turning your backyard into a guacamole gold mine.
Still ahead in our next half hour on CBS News Bay Area, we'll meet a group of fifth graders investigating a potentially dangerous trend in beauty products and the Bay Area lawmaker trying to address it.
I think Assemblyman Lee would need to define what an anti-aging product is, because the company can just be like, okay, that's not an anti-aging product.
And how a prestigious Bay Area school is celebrating a century of innovation, bringing in the engineers of tomorrow. I'm Max Darrow, and this is The Minute. The North Bay's Smart Commuter Train begins service to Windsor this weekend. It's the latest service expansion in the region, now bringing people beyond the Sonoma County Airport Station. The new station is only a block away from the Windsor Green. Some San Francisco parents are upset after the school district made a last-minute move requiring all ninth graders to take a full year of ethnic studies. They say it would replace world history, repeat middle school content, and limit elective choices. In San Francisco, today marks the final day of Festa Italiana in North Beach. It's a celebration of decades of Italian heritage in the community. From music to dance lessons and, of course, delicious food and wine, Sunday's celebration includes the 104th annual Statuccio race. I'm Max Darrow with The Minute. Skincare brands are making billions of dollars every year selling products to tweens, kids under 12 years old. But dermatologists say some of those products are not actually good for young skin. So now a Bay Area lawmaker wants to require an ID to buy some anti-aging products. CBS News California investigative correspondent Julie Watts teamed up with CBS News Confirmed and a group of fifth graders all together. They're looking at the risks and what is being done to protect children.
You're going to see how a bill begins.
This isn't a typical class field trip to the state capitol.
How long have you been working for a lobbyist?
These fifth graders are on assignment.
Why did the bill go to appropriations?
Investigating the so-called Sephora Kids bill, which would trigger an 18 and over age verification when kids try to buy anti-aging products with certain ingredients that could harm young skin.
Companies put retinol in bright colored packages with animals' faces and sparkles.
And who better to investigate the proposed solution?
That's not for grown-ups, it's for kids like me, and they know it.
And then the kids it aims to protect.
Why does it matter so much to you?
So we invited my daughter's fifth grade class to the Capitol.
Lots and lots of big companies and corporations that profit, that make a lot of money off of things that we don't feel good about.
They interviewed Assemblyman Alex Lee, California's youngest legislator.
And I think it's really bad that companies make money off of children.
He wrote the so-called Sephora Kids bill.
A lot of doctors prescribe or just recommend retinoids and retinols for kids and teens.
They studied up and asked some tough questions.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. So in a prescription setting, it makes a lot more sense, right? But the products that we're talking about, you buy at Sephora or Ulta, you don't have to ever see a doctor.
Then the class heard from both supporters and opponents in the Assembly Committee hearing.
One of the worst things I used was a face mask that looked like a kitty cat. I thought it was cute and would make my skin glow.
Although well-intended, this bill is misguided.
I don't know that I've seen, living in the world of teen girls, this to be a huge problem.
I didn't know it had retinol in it. I didn't even know what retinol was.
Over-the-counter skincare products, including those containing retinols and alpha hydroxy acids, provide critical and affordable access to treatment.
For about 2 weeks, it was really painful, and I had a hard time sleeping.
We are opposed to AB 728 because it's virtually impossible for us to comply with.
I also think that there needs to be serious work on ensuring that if this does move forward, it is incredibly clear to what is anti-aging and what is not, because the ingredients are often overlapping.
That's a good point. I think Assemblyman Lee would need to define what an anti-aging product is, because the company can just be like, okay, that's not an anti-aging product.
And back in the classroom, they had a few more concerns.
It's in our function to be appealed by bright things, especially for kids.
But also, it doesn't say anti-aging on the packaging.
And then with the warning labels, the brands could just make it as small as they want, and then you might not be able to see it. So I think verbally would be much better, because then they can hear, oh, okay, I can't buy this.
And when it comes to marketing through product packaging, even parents can get confused.
I researched this product, and I assumed this one right next to it had the same ingredients, and it didn't. And so I think that's at the core of the issue, and the reason that I wanted to do this story, and the reason I wanted to tell this story through your eyes. If I, as an investigative reporter, can't figure out which of these products are safe, then what about parents who don't investigate for a living? What about your parents? And that's the concern.
The Sephora Kids bill did pass that committee, but for a second year in a row, Appropriations Chair Buffy Wicks from the East Bay killed the bill by holding it in the so-called suspense file. That means the rest of the legislature will never get a chance to vote. And you can bet Julie and the fifth graders will be investigating the behind-the-scenes politicking that led up to that decision. But in the meantime, you can watch that full investigation on kpix.com. This year marks the Stanford School of Engineering's 100th anniversary. Mary Lee was on campus as they celebrated a century of innovation and showcased the engineering of tomorrow.
The physical nozzles that we can make can go down to 60 micron inner diameter.
Soham Sinha is a bioengineering PhD student here at Stanford. He's working on something so science fiction, you would think it was out of a movie, to 3D print a fully functioning human heart.
When you're doing something first of its kind, it's always like, oh my God, we're breaking new frontiers. We're at the edge of science, where it's no longer we're pulling ideas from science fiction, you know, stuff that we only seen about in the movies, and suddenly like I'm right here, like, hey, we are making the science fiction a reality.
This research is in bioengineering associate professor Mark Schuyler Scott's lab at Stanford. Under his leadership, his researchers are working to 3D bioprint a human heart with a fully functioning blood network to keep that heart alive. He shared his inspiration for this revolutionary work.
Pretty early on, I found a way to make blood vessels in tissue. And it was when I was able to keep thick slabs of tissue, not like a thin film of cells at the bottom of a dish, but a good chunky slab of human cells. When you can put blood vessels into that, you can keep it fed and alive
That's when I realized, wow, like this is something that has been missing in tissue engineering for decades. This is something that can allow us to think big and focus on really hard problems.
They're paving the future. Jennifer Whittam, Dean of the School of Engineering, says she's lucky to oversee the program during this important milestone.
It's incredible. I've been learning a lot about the history of Stanford engineering, and decade by decade, there's just so much science, discovery, innovation, inventions that have been going on for 100 years, and at least 100 more coming.
The future is bright for Stanford and students like Soham.
I'm a very passionate individual, and I really like working on projects that really speak to me. So this is really, all of the 3D printing that we're doing it's really a passion project. Like, I feel like I'm not just doing the PhD just because of PhD, it's because I really want to do this.
It's this passion that Soham and many engineers here share. A passion to make breakthroughs unlike anything we've seen before, to improve our lives in ways we never thought possible through engineering of the future.
The founders of Hewlett-Packard met as Stanford engineering students, and the university's engineering graduate students created companies like Yahoo, Google, and NVIDIA. Coming up next, we will meet a Bay Area doctor taking part in groundbreaking research on traumatic brain injuries.
A number of people that have these so-called mild TBIs, actually, they're not mild at all.
How his work could help people all over the world improve their quality of life. Plus, a cross-country journey for charity. And it all started here in the Bay Area. How it hits close to home for this college student as he raises awareness for lung cancer.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Every year, nearly 5 million people in the United States seek medical care for a traumatic brain injury, a TBI. And now, based on a mountain of data and years of research, a team of international experts has identified a more precise way to diagnose and also treat the trauma. Here's Ann Makovic.
Sean Sanford of San Francisco writes fiction and music reviews. He's a substitute teacher and right now is getting his master's in creative writing. He also really loves skateboarding. 8 years ago, Sean was about to show his friends a new trick.
And then my next memory is laying down, looking at my friends. My wife Candace was standing there, and they were asking me if I recognized any of my friends.
Sean had slipped and hit his head on a concrete ledge.
I kept repeating myself and being like, what are we doing? Where are we? Where are we? Like, what's going on?
At San Francisco General, the clinical guidelines used for decades indicated Sean had a bad concussion that could resolve with rest and time. But then the ER staff scanned his brain, and what they saw, he says, saved his life.
Sent me into the surgery room. They called Dr. Manley, who wasn't working that day. They called him in and they said that they were like, we have a patient who cracked his skull, and it's bad, and if he doesn't get treatment, like right now, he's gonna die.
Chief of Neurosurgery at the General and UCSF neurologist Dr. Jeff Manley. He says the current criteria used to assess brain injuries, the clinical symptoms alone, no longer applies.
First of all, it's not very precise.
Manley is part of a coalition of experts and patients from 14 countries who are calling for an overhaul. Trauma centers nationwide will soon begin to test the new approach.
We've been working on this now for over a decade.
The hope? It will lead to more accurate diagnoses, appropriate treatment, and follow-up care.
When somebody's diagnosed as a mild TBI or a concussion, often they're just disregarded. And we know from studies that we've done over the last 10 to 15 years that a number of people that have these so-called mild TBIs, actually, they're not mild at all.
The approach involves clinical exams, biomarker blood tests that measure tissue damage, imaging tests which look for blood clots or bleeding, and modifiers like a patient's age, gender, mental health, even prior head injuries.
We know that it's not just what the injury brings to the patient, but what the patient brings to the injury.
Sean needed follow-up care. After the accident, he developed epilepsy and depression. He now meditates and helps his wife develop relaxation products in their little store.
It's really a place of magic and a place of healing.
And yes, Sean still skateboards, but now always with a helmet.
As for the cost, Dr. Manley expects the new criteria will save patients money in the long run by giving them better care, keeping them out of hospitals, and getting them back to work and to their families sooner. A student from Notre Dame University embarking on a cross-country adventure from the Bay Area to raise awareness for lung cancer. He says his journey is dedicated to his grandmother, who died of the illness back in 2011. As Veronica Macias shows us, his mission started right here in San Francisco.
The furthest ride I've done is probably a little bit over 65 miles, and we're going to be averaging about 85 miles a day starting tomorrow.
All those miles for the next 48 days will add up to a 3,600-mile adventure for Jack Owens, cycling between San Francisco's Ocean Beach to New Jersey's Ocean City. It's the ride of his life, dedicated to his grandmother, who died from lung cancer back in 2011 when he was just 6 years old. Now at the age of 20, he wants to follow in his uncle's footsteps in helping raise awareness and remove the stigma from the disease, because anyone can get lung cancer.
Our family did a lot to help in the fight against lung cancer a few years after that, but he always knew he wanted to do something more. So in 2017, he started Ride Hard, Breathe Easy, and a lot of our family has really helped with the organization ever since.
Through his cross-country journey, Jack's goal is to raise $100,000 for the nonprofit, which helps raise money for research and programs with partner hospitals. Even the smallest donation can help bring some comfort to families with a loved one battling lung cancer.
And that could be something as simple as getting them an Uber ride to their appointment. You'd be surprised at the lot of people that are diagnosed with lung cancer, the most common cancer killer among every demographic, among every state in the country, and then they can't even afford to go to their appointments.
The cross-country cycling trip with wide open spaces leaves time to take in stunning views and also a lot of time to think and reflect. While it's inspiring, these elevations can also be very tiring. Thankfully, this is a family affair. Loved ones are cheering him on and rotating in the family's minivan, which was shipped from coast to coast to be there on the side of the road when needed.
I am in awe of his, his strength, his endurance, his perseverance through all of this. I mean, it's not an easy journey that he's doing. Admittedly, it's beautiful and it's amazing, and he's getting an extraordinary experience, but it's hard.
But the student from the University of Notre Dame couldn't be more excited for every state line he's crossing.
It gives me comfort knowing that if a lot of these people can go through such intense procedures and that sort of thing throughout their lung cancer experience, then I know I can make my way up a hill eventually.
His Irish grandma used to always say, "Many hands make for light work." By sharing her story and embarking in his cross-country adventure, he's hoping to inspire as many people to help pitch in on the mission to help end lung cancer.
Coming up, a barbershop class might not be every student's style, but we'll meet one high school senior who certainly made the cut. High school senior Danny Pablo says he always had an interest in cutting hair, and when he found out his school offered a barber entrepreneur class, that interest transformed into a new purpose. Suji Nam shows us the class that's giving students the tools to cut hair and even eventually run a shop of their own.
Every great barber knows that a clean set of tools makes for a clean haircut. And that is what Danny Pablo, a senior at Castlemont High School in Oakland, learned on day one.
Tannic strips on him so it doesn't get itchy on his neck.
And now, on his final day of the barber entrepreneur class, You can say he's a talented barber in training.
Another way to express art by cutting hair.
It all began when Pablo was curious about what life would be like as a barber. And when he found out his school offers a free after-school class on barbering and entrepreneurship, he signed up.
Papers, and then also when I do designs.
He practices by cutting his friend's hair on the weekend, and in class, he has the opportunity to cut real hair, not just on a mannequin.
Vertical sides as well?
Yes, please.
This is one of his teachers, an instructor at the Paul Mitchell Barber School in the East Bay. Pablo gets real-life experience, like several other of his classmates who learn how to master different hairstyles. Frank West founded the Barber Entrepreneur Program 3 years ago.
My background is really about, doing things positive in the community, and at Castmont it's kind of important too because it's like my neighborhood.
He works with 7 professional barbers who dedicate their time to students after school. About 40 students meet twice a week to learn not only how to style hair, but also how to start and run a business.
My hope is that people like Danny are going to come back to the school and then reproduce what I did and stuff, be able to get back. As a teacher, you always like to see that light bulb go off and stuff, so you see a lot of the kids come in here and it's, a wonderful thing.
And the light bulb did go off for Pablo.
It motivates me to continue every day, like I have a purpose in living. I see myself as a barber when I graduate high school. I'm thinking of getting my license and hopefully open a barbershop of my own.
You never know. You may be looking to get a haircut, and you just might see Pablo on the other side.
Danny and the rest of his senior class finished up high school and graduated on Friday. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Max Darrow. We'll be right back with your First Alert forecast and today's top stories.